Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Guilford Board of Finance regular meeting of Monday, June 16th, 2025 to order. Item number 1 is public forum. Anybody wishing to address the board in public forum? Okay, seeing none. Item number 2, approved minutes. 2.1, regular meeting minutes of May 19th, 2025. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, corrections?
One revision in paragraph 3.
Okay.
3.1, the second sentence after discussion with the chairman, DeMayo, I think just take out the. Other than that, that was it.
Okay. Anything further? Okay, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Excellent. Thank you. Item number 3, correspondence, Standing Building Committee minutes of June 3rd, 2025. So because of our meeting being a little bit later this month, we were able to get them. Chairman DeMayo is on with us. Good evening, David. How are you?
Good evening, folks.
So the first thing I wanted to bring up, and then there was one other question I had on the meeting minutes. So regarding 595, to follow up on our discussions from last month, we had tried through the Selectman's office to schedule a meeting prior to tonight. There were conflicts and availability issues with several of the key members that really should be present for that meeting. Currently, we are shooting for, and I believe most of the people have responded. Matt, I think you could probably confirm, or actually Tracy, I forgot who's on the list. But some of the key players are able to be available for July 21st at 6:30, which is right before our regular meeting. So it seemed to be the most advantageous time to try to have a meeting and have us involved, or have us all available too. What this does also, it gives us an opportunity. I believe Chairman DeMayo, I made a very good recommendation in the correspondence we were going back and forth with, that any questions the Board of Finance has or concerns regarding 595, which again is the new Board of Ed offices in the existing building over at the high school site, should bring those to the attention of the Standing Building Committee, or I should say Chairman DeMayo, and the team. I would say Cliff Gurnham, facilities, and there were a number of people that were on that. I know Chair Dr. Balistraci was on it, the superintendent. There were a few people on it, but any questions or concerns should go. Let's try to get those on the Friday prior to the July 21st, 6:30 meeting. It will be, I am going to recommend, I think it was going to be by Zoom anyway, but if we're in person, that's fine too. So logistically, we'll figure out the logistics, but it's going to be 6:30. Did anybody
I'll
have?
make sure I'm there in person on that evening.
Okay, that would be preferred if possible.
Sure.
I'm sure we could do it by Zoom, Tracy, if maybe you're able to. If we're in this room at 6:30. The only thing we would probably need to make sure is that the room's available at 6:30.
Karen already checked it.
She did. That's great. Okay, good. Okay. Why did I even question that, right? So any questions for that, we can deliver to David and the rest of the team for that 6:30 meeting. So any further questions regarding the Standing Building Committee minutes of June 3rd? When I say any further, I'll just raise the one question that I had. David, under bills, I just wanted to make sure, just clarify that under, hold on, let me just make sure I've got the right page here. It was on page, it was under number 16, approved bills, under Atlantic, the Atlantic Computing Technology Corporation. There were 2 invoices that were approved for roughly half the amount of what their contract is. My assumption, I just wanted to clarify that it's for mostly the materials and the equipment that were noted to be on site already at the high school. So I'm assuming that's a lot of equipment, not labor to do the work yet.
That's what we were told.
Okay.
Mr. Mayo, that it's all materials and equipment, it's all been delivered, it's all been inventoried by the town, or by Cliff and his team.
Okay. That's what I figured, because I thought maybe there'd be a question regarding why half of the contract amount is already being approved.
Correct.
But it's usually a material or equipment issue. Okay. Anybody further have any questions?
I have a
Veronica, please.
On item number 17 under old business, regarding to work on the, I think it's under old business, phase 2 for the Adams Middle School renovation project. What exactly is that?
What number are you on, please?
It's
Number 17?
17. It's regarding engineering work for Adams Middle School. It was the first time I'm seeing Adams Middle School being mentioned, so I just don't remember.
Veronica?
Yes.
That's the stream project.
Oh, the stream
The
project.
stream
Oh,
project
Oh.
is phase 2.
Okay.
They're doing
Thank
the-
you.
It could be one of the commencement stream projects.
yeah, that's what Dr. Balistraci and Linda just clarified.
That should be stream, thank you, but we'll make that correction in the meeting minutes.
Great. Thank you.
So Dave, I have a quick question.
Go ahead, John.
With the administrators moving into 595 New England Road, does that mean are we done paying, or we still owe some bills on that project?
I believe we approved the last invoice. Let me just go back and show you. I believe the last invoice was approved at our June meeting for OR&L. Let's see.
Actually, just item number 12, which is on page, I believe it's 3, it does indicate that all staff are moved into the building. He should have, this is Mr. Gurnham, should have the final payment for bills for this project available at the next meeting. That would be
So there may be some between, I can confirm that for you. Looks like we confirmed that we approved their last invoice of $20,463.52. There was a catch-up invoice due to a math error that happened during requisition number 2, where OR&L shorted themselves $14,665.47 on that requisition. It wasn't caught until later on. We did do the reconciliation, and everything is up to speed now and accurate according to the contract.
All right. I guess I was hinting at, will we know the total for the project when we meet on the 21st? Give or take, we probably will.
We probably.
Yeah, I believe,
should.
from my position, I don't believe we're expecting any more change orders or invoices. I believe all the furniture has been delivered. There may be a stray bill in July, but I think when we meet in the 21st, we should have everything wrapped up.
All right. Linda, did you want to? I'm sorry, did you want to
We
say?
are still waiting on some furniture delivery.
Okay.
So all the furniture has not been delivered yet, so that's not all
So
paid.
those are the invoices that we're talking about, so it's not going to be major, it's not going to be
No.
large amounts, it's
No,
going to
it
be
won't be large
smaller
amounts.
amounts just to finish it.
Okay.
There may be a straggler or 2 pieces of furniture,
Right.
and I think we have the retainage for OR&L. That'll be it.
But again, to answer the question by our meeting regarding the facility, the Board of Ed facility, that should be known by the July 21st date.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anything for David while he's with us? Okay, great. Thank you, Chairman DeMayo, for joining us, as always.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And we will see you next month.
Good night.
All right, take
Have the
care.
rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
3.2, Pension Committee, anything on pension minutes? Or the investment report? Do not have anything.
Fairly straightforward.
Very straightforward. 3.3 is OPEB. Anything on the minutes or investment report?
There was something on the, sorry,
Sure.
can I ask a question?
Yeah, yeah.
Question about the pension? It was,
Pension, not OPEB, right?
yeah.
Yeah, on
Just want
minutes?
to open it here and see if I can find it again. Hold on.
In the minutes or?
Yeah, it was section 7 of the minutes
Okay.
for old business, and it was regarding the COLA. So it said the board voted 3.1.1 not grant a COLA adjustment. What does that mean, 3.1.1?
Three approved, one opposed, and,
3 against.
against, 1 abstain.
There you go.
Ah, okay.
That was the vote.
So is that binding? Is that the decision this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
That was it.
Okay, great. Item number 4, review and accept the report of expenditures for the Board of Education for May 2025. Linda Trudeau,
Good evening.
Board of Education member Ralph Brooks.
Welcome.
Welcome,
Thanks.
Mr. Brooks.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you as well.
You as well, sir.
Thank you. All right. Expenditures for the month of May 2025 were $5,361,002.03. Expenditures and encumbrances through the end of May were about 85% of the budget, and that comes in as compared to about 86% of last year's budget. Revenue for May 2025 was $195,978.15. This includes $176,994, which was an apportioned piece from the excess cost grant. The remaining from that revenue was Medicaid, pre-K tuition, non-resident tuition, and the quarterly payment for the charging station. In terms of how we compared to prior year budgets, salaries were expended in line with the prior year budget. Employee benefits, this was slightly higher than the prior year, but in terms of real dollar, this was less than the previous year. And then everything else, purchase services, tuition, supply and materials, capital, all was expended lower than prior year, as was transportation, and within transportation was the remainder of that excess cost grant, and that was allocated at $38,699.74. In terms of total warrants, that came in at $2,108,712.30. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Okay, anything on the report?
I was going to ask you about the substitute teachers. So we increased the budget pretty significantly this year, and it looks like we absorbed it.
We did.
So I'm just kind of curious. We probably talked about it before, but what is driving it again to have the need for so many substitute teachers?
There's a number of things. It's teacher absences, long-term absences. We actually raised the amount that we're paying the teachers, the substitutes, because we weren't attracting them. So in order to try and
Part of it was that increase?
we raised the rate a little bit. So there's a number of factors, but there've been a large number of absences for various reasons.
Maybe health?
For teachers. Various reasons.
Okay. I was wondering if it's going to just continue at that level.
It's one of those that's hard to predict.
Yeah.
We increased the budget a little bit more for next year, so hopefully we'll be covering it, but
Okay.
it's one of those that's it's hard to really track. But it's been continually going over budget, which is why we've been trying to raise the budget up to cover what we've been experiencing.
Okay. Yep.
And it's going up again next year's budget too.
Yes.
Anything else on the report? Questions?
So the only other thing was really to complain about electricity, but it looks like about $500,000 extra in electricity than expected. I think, I was trying to learn about this, I think the supply side doubled in the last 12 months. Supply side charges.
So there were
You got,
the
you know,
increased fees. We are locked in for our supplier, but there were all the added fees that went up. Some of our accounts, the type of plan was changed, so it was moved over to a different plan, and that had a higher rate, so we are actually trying to get those moved back. But everybody's rates have gone up
so
crazy.
it's 12 crazy charges
There's,
now.
we're supposed to be getting a decrease anywhere between 7 to 13%, depending on the plan going forward. Hopefully that'll help some.
Okay. I've lost track, but there was talk about getting rid of like one of the charges, I think, for 3% or something.
The public benefit charge.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's
or-
one of them that they were
I couldn't
trying
remember
to
which one it
eliminate.
was. There's so many.
Yes, there are quite a few on the bill.
All right, had to gripe a little bit about electricity.
The budget for that was just short last year of, if I'm reading this correctly, I gotta zoom in, just short of $1 million. And then it was slightly over $1 million for this year, and we're obviously trending much higher than that. Next year, I thought I read in one of the minutes, I thought I read something along the lines, I was concerned even about next year. About
That
the
is one of the areas that we are concerned about for
Yeah.
next year.
Even
because
though even though it was increased, I
It
believe.
was only increased a small amount.
Small amount,
Because when
okay.
we did the budget, it was before all those fees hit.
Okay.
So, because we start our budget so early,
Right.
it was before that. We talked about adding to that budget, and then we got our medical budget and decided that we could not do both.
Right.
So, the other area that we're concerned about for next year's budget is possibly having to add a kindergarten teacher or two based on the enrollment numbers. And that's something we're obviously watching very closely right now.
Yeah.
Both that enrollment is at a faster clip right now than it was last year.
Yes.
When is that decision made? Is that for a additional kindergarten teacher? Is that done in August, or is that based on enrollment in October?
No, it's based on the enrollment that we see over the summer.
Over the summer?
Yeah, so that we could have the teacher in place and have the classroom set up for the start of school. Because if we wait till October, it's very
Yeah,
disruptive to move
right.
the kids around at that point.
So is that something you bring in July 1st, August 1st, or when's your, kind of your, I wouldn't say cutoff point?
I'm not sure when he actually makes that decision. That's a decision Dr. Freeman
Sometime
makes.
over the summer.
Sometime
That's
over the
probably a
summer.
good answer.
Yeah, but it depends on when there's an indication or a determination that this is about to cross the line of class sizes, or this is about to, right? I mean, one can imagine that as we're seeing larger numbers than we expect, but they're not yet surpassing our class size guidance. We're watching, and then at some point, there's a determination that
Yeah.
we're too close to crossing the line, or have crossed the line, that we now have to make a decision.
Okay. So over, July, August, we'll know.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Quite honestly, those numbers for electricity are staggering. You're going to be over 50% above. I would suggest that yourself, Cliff, and folks from our side work with the independent consultants we use for monitoring the energy performance contract to see whether this is a utilization issue or it's a cost issue, because there were some assumptions made in that long-term contract relative to the annual increases in electricity costs. So I would think this is something that we want to take a look at. That's $500,000, better than $500,000 over what we're talking about. So
I know Cliff has contacted them, and I have spoken with somebody as well, and they're supposed to be looking at it, but I'll follow up with Cliff and make sure that that's being done.
we'll make our staff available.
Sure, thank you.
The difficulty for us is we don't see the electricity in one lump sum. You guys do, so it makes sense for us to start to take a look at it too.
I'm trying to remember, there was an engineering firm that was doing the analysis. And are they still doing it? Did we keep them on?
That was a 3-year contract.
3 years they did it, yeah.
We it may well certainly be worth our while to investigate bringing them on board. There's a couple of firms that do it, Energy and Titan, which are both affiliated with Connecticut County municipalities. Those kind of bars, those kind of these contracts. So
Yeah.
I think it makes sense for us to get
Anything else on our report?
I was curious again, sorry, you probably mentioned it last month, but the structural equipment, I think because of the way the lease payments work, there's money coming back. Has that come back yet, or?
No, because part of that, there's a small portion of that we will be submitting for reimbursement for. We are waiting for, there's actually a vehicle that we are waiting for the title to come back for motor vehicle, because of the way we finance the vehicle through the third-party leasing company, it has to be put on the title after we receive it. And I've sent it in, and they returned it to me, and I've sent it back out, and I still don't have it. I actually tried calling them today to find out where the title is, and I didn't get through to anybody who could help me. So, not today, Thursday I called. I was going to call today, but it's Monday, they're not there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call them again tomorrow, and as soon as we get the title back, we can get get reimbursement for the truck.
Okay. If you get through to them, tell them I'm waiting on my title. too,
Okay,
if
sure.
you don't mind.
Anybody else I can make a list?
I got one more question, sorry, Mr. Chairman, but I was wondering on the excess cost grant, how do we do? Did we do as good as we expected, or? Not sure if we had that conversation last month either.
So with the additional amount that we're getting, it'll come close to what I had anticipated in the budget. But with the original amount, the payment that we just got here through the end of May, we were only at, it was like 50.
What do you expect, like 68,
56?
67% or something?
I had gone to just under 60.
Oh, wow.
And we are at 58. Just have it. Yes. No, it actually came down to, is it on here? I know I have it, 56.
It's not critical, but I was curious. Did we get a little bit of money back from the state? How did they cover us this year?
Yeah, they gave us an additional, well, we still haven't received it yet. We should be getting another $178,000 before the end of the month. And with that, that brings us closer to what I had budgeted,
Okay.
which was just under 60. And the actual, without that additional, was only like 56%.
If memory serves me, it's getting less of a percentage each year, right?
Yes.
We're still on target for tuition to be under budget.
Yes, and I apologize, I forgot to send the report out. I can send it to you tomorrow. With the additional funding that we are going to be getting, it looks like we could be about $675,000 under budget, which is great because part of those, so some of the students that we brought back into district require other services, so our contracted services or special services line is over budget to provide those services, so that some of that savings
It's savings
will
on the tuition
offset,
side.
will offset those contracted services that we're required to provide.
And that's
for
even with the
students.
higher medical, too.
So it'll save us, we're still in good shape, but some of it will offset those additional costs that we incurred by bringing students back into district.
All right.
Even if bringing them in district, there's some services that we can't provide, so
Right.
we've got to outsource it.
Yes.
Right.
As far as the trend right now, I think I read at the time of the minutes or last meetings, 100 to 150 right now in under budget savings, somewhere around there.
Somewhere in that area.
Yeah, which of course is moving target, but
Yes.
somewhere in that range.
Yes.
That's
And
the overall number.
right, it's somewhere in that range. And the Board of Ed is considering the policy that would allow us to open up the non-lapsing fund. So if we have a savings of a surplus of that amount, we look to put that into the non-lapsing account.
Okay, and then, then next month, we're going to have 2 sets of warrants, right, to approve for both the town and the Board of Ed. Maybe, maybe not? Yeah, yeah, there will be. Okay. Anything on the warrants or any of the minutes? One question on the warrants on page 13. It was for, and it's just Trade B, Environmental Services, the about $4,500. Pump out oily water separator bus yard. Just wondering, is that a typical expense or was that a unique or specific expense?
I think it's done once a year.
It is?
Yeah, it's typical.
So it's an annual
Yes,
pump
it's
out?
annual.
Okay.
At the high school, I think we do it much more often. Take that holding tank and pump it out, but the bus yard is just an annual.
I was just looking at to make sure, just, was it annual or was something going on?
Nope.
But it's just an annual?
No, just an
Okay.
annual maintenance.
Okay.
I had one on page 12, the Southeastern Employment Services, continuing services for, in parentheses, as coaching. Is that the instructional coaching? or is
No,
that
it's,
athletic coaching?
it's actually job coaching for special education students.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. We need a better description in there, sorry about that.
It's okay.
I look at it and knew what it was, so to me, it didn't trigger changing.
What do we ask? Anything else? Warrants, minutes?
And on page 7,
Yeah.
there's a blank line, the second one down. So I removed the name for privacy and forgot to put in there, name removed for privacy. So that's why it's blank,
Okay.
just in case.
It's really private.
It's just, yeah. I'm really keeping it under
So it
wraps.
should have fallen in somewhere in the N area, not between F and G.
No, it would still stay there, I just take it out.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, I'm sure that's what it was.
Yeah, just in case. Just another thing.
Okay. Anything further? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report of expenditures for the Board of Education for May 2025 in the amount of $5,361,002.03.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any recusals? Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate it. Item number 5, review and approve the report of expenditures for town government for May 2025. Mary Jane.
Start with revenues. So as of the end of May, we are 91.7% through the year. We are 99.6% collected. We do have one more month to help us bring in the rest of the funds. If you remember, we do have a couple of state grants that we had budgeted for that we're not getting. That's the very last item, other departmental. So that's a $400,000 hole we have to make up, although many of our departments are helping us do that. And in the current month, we brought in $630,000. So if we bring in anywhere close to that, at least we will meet our budget for this year. On the revenue and expenditure side, I do expect our budgets to be pretty lean, not large surplus at the end of this year. So we yet to be seen, but at this point, that's how it's trending. So on the revenues, just a few I want to note. Finance does have $50,000 left to bring in. We brought in about that in May, hoping to at least complete that budget by the end of the fiscal year. The tax collector has $260,000 left to bring in. She's pretty close to where she was last year. So obviously that's a small number compared to her full budget. So that line item is actually doing fine because there's a lot of line items in there. It's not just current taxes. So it doesn't necessarily mean we're delinquent in that much.
99.9 or 99.8 is very good.
Exactly right. Absolutely. I'll just mention that the golf and the fire department are both over budget. The golf over their budget by $20,000 and the fire over by $360,000. That we'll have a conversation on the expenditure side for offsets for that. What's that?
There's a flip side to that.
There's the expenditures, the
Okay.
flip side to that.
Okay,
So
we
yeah.
gotta see what
Good news,
those are.
good news, bad news, but ultimately neutral news.
Right. Obviously, the fire department is over budget due to increased number of claims, calls, and that just corresponds to additional expense on the other side. And we'll talk about the golf course as
Yeah.
well.
Same with youth and family services or not so much?
Youth and Family Services is over as
Expenses
well.
too? I put it on the expenses also? or-
Not necessarily.
mean-
No, I don't think they are.
So it's just.
No.
I didn't think so.
Their They don't necessarily incur more expense,
It's
too
already
much
budgeted.
more expense.
It's already budgeted.
But it's already budgeted. They do bill out for insurance. So we're less likely to see a spike in their expenditures when there's an increase on their revenue. We did increase their revenue budget this year as well, and that, we anticipate current caseload in their expenditure budgets.
So right on the number, actually.
Yeah.
It's nice.
But they're outperforming the budget.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How about the police department line? It's not a lot of big bucks there, but
No, so
a little under.
that's
Under last year too.
special duty. So if we don't see Eversource or Connecticut Water doing a lot of work throughout town, that means we're not
Okay.
having the extra duty
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
So that budget really fluctuates. It's why we budget that on a 3-year cycle, average cycle. But it's special duty, period.
Okay.
So that's why
Okay. Anything else
some
on-
years we have more than others.
Anything else on revenue? Expenditures?
From the expenditure side, I just do want to note that at the top, the selectmen appear to be higher, and based on this, they are. We had a little issue in their payroll line, which has been corrected, so they are back on track. So the golf course is next. They are already over budget. We do have $11,000 of encumbrances, which we are looking to close. They do have the revenue on the other side, and we do anticipate that at the end of the year, their revenue and their revenue will most likely cover the overage on the expenditure side. But we are calling the Golf Course Commission in to have a discussion with them as to where they are. They did some extensive work on one of their tees, which 7th tee, which is really what has put them over this year. So we just want to have a conversation with them on how they went about doing that. It was in the operating budget, maybe working on doing that type of work differently in the future. But the golf course is very busy. We increased their revenue as well, and they're doing well, but we do want to just speak to them about how they're managing their expenditures. Fire department is next. They are 99% through with their expenditure budget. Did have an extensive email with the fire chief. I'm just going to highlight some of the answers that he provided me. They are still down 2 full-time positions, and they have to replace a firefighter while that person is on paramedic training, which accounts for a lot of the overage on the replacement side. Call volumes is up 15% from the prior year. That causes an increase in operating supplies, because every time we go out on the ambulance and they use supplies, it needs to be replaced. They've had a larger percentage of cardiac arrest calls, which requiring some high-cost medications. So that was that. On the building maintenance side, they are over on that particular line item. They had a major boiler breakdown and a water heater failure this year that they had to contend with. Vehicle maintenance as well. They had numerous repair issues on the ladder truck. And due to increase in call volume and wear and tear, they are replacing their tires on a quicker schedule, and those tires are quite expensive when they do that. They also have a number of encumbrances there, about $77,000. So the chief and his staff are working on trying to get those closed out as well, so it doesn't bring the budget over. I have to say, the fire department doing pretty well this year. We at this point, in other years we were already far over, so we did a much better job of budgeting and managing this budget this year, and looking forward to continuing that trend. Health department is over, as I mentioned last month. We do have grant funding that will come and offset some of the salaries. We do that at the end of the year, so that budget will not be overdrawn at year end. Same thing with capital. The funding that's over there is use of fund balance, items like technology, building maintenance, and such that we will transfer from our fund balance to cover those expenditures. So that line item will not be over budget at the end of the year either. So bottom line, with the Board of Education where they are today, we're at 88.4% spent, 88.9% last year. So we're actually trending better than last year.
Question?
Pretty
All
straightforward.
addressed.
Yep. I do not have any. We'll shift over to warrants. Anybody on warrants? Always save the best for last.
Favorite topic?
Okay. So nothing on expenses or warrants?
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. Medical.
Okay, I got a lot to say about the medical.
I'm sure you do.
First thing I want to say is as I've been saying the last few months, we're really working hard on getting a good handle on stop loss. So we have worked with the company and our own staff, and we have adjusted some of the other months to put items in their proper place. So if you were to pull out the report I gave you last month and compare it to this month, you'll see that some of the months are different. They are lower. We have helped through this process, it has helped our budget down a little bit. It's still not great, but at this point I'm showing a deficit of about $3 million, bringing our fund balance down to $2.6 million, just over 2 months in the bank with 1 month to go. On the plus side, as I've been saying, and it's coming to fruition, that we will end the year in a positive fund balance. We're not going to bring us down to zero. We should have enough in the fund balance to cover the $750,000 that we budgeted to use next year. And as I've been saying, we have already anticipated these large claims in our upcoming budget. So the hope is that we should be able to cover the claims next year where we have not been able to do so this year.
And the prescription rebate has not come in yet.
And that has not come in either, correct. And as predicted early on this year, it's not going to come till next fiscal year. So that'll help us as well. Good point, Amy. Thank
Where
you.
would that go?
It's going to come right back into here.
Okay, it won't go into the,
Yep, it'll come right back.
On that note, is there any
Yeah.
other, state money that might come back to us after the close of the year?
In medical?
No,
sorry.
across the board.
No, none that I'm aware of.
Okay.
No.
I did notice, I did note that it was under, 2, in the fund balance. It's under 2 months last month, and it's
Correct.
2.1, so it shifted to above, which, just changing that from a 1 to a 2 is
I know,
better.
the optics are better.
It's an
yeah.
optic
And
thing, but it's
like
better.
I said, it didn't make a huge change, but,
Yeah.
it's,
I mean,
we really just tightened up all the numbers.
And we'd like to be 3, but ultimately,
I'm happy with 2.
we're happy, just
3
happy to be positive at this point.
3 is our goal, which
Yeah.
I'm glad we've had that goal, this time. Without that fund balance, we would really be in a jam right now. So I think it is the right decision not to return that money. Sorry, Jonathan. When we have it, this is a prime example of why.
Yeah, there's none to
I
return
won't
this
say
year
I,
anyway.
we, it's why we are always, really, working to keep it at that. And hopefully we can bring that back up.
Yeah, but building that back up, though, is not going to probably happen in 1 year.
No.
It's going to probably
Most
need to be
likely
built back over 2 or 3 years after a
Right.
year like this. So.
Especially when you look at the numbers under catastrophic claims.
Yeah.
If you'll see, we have 43 members over 75,000 through the end of May. Last year, through the end of June, we had 38. We have 18 members over the 150,000 the end of May. Last year, we only had 11. So unfortunately, and it goes without saying, that it's the health of our employees that are driving these numbers.
Yep.
That exercise class was supposed to work.
And we'll imagine what it might be like if we had.
My husband just had his physical and all his numbers are down.
All right.
About that.
And he went through Slim Nation, so that's just one. Sorry, Ernie. But
That's something.
all his numbers are
If
down.
only Slim Nation could fix all the issues, but
He won't see
unfortunately
this,
for
I
these,
hope.
I'm sure Slim Nation probably wouldn't have made much of a difference.
Right, but just one more example, just one,
Absolutely.
Could be worse.
Yeah, but to Jeff's point, what if he didn't? I mean, these
Right,
numbers
what
could
if
be
he
even
didn't?
higher, so.
Right.
Absolutely.
When is our renewal?
There is no renewal. We are self-funded, so we do it on an annual basis.
Right, so is it worth, I mean, just based on all the risk, is it just worth looking at other options this upcoming year?
Funny you should mention that. I asked the same question of Mary Jane this morning at the Board of Selectmen meeting, and it's probably time for us to take a look at it. Now, let's recall, we had relatively positive experience for 5 or 6 years. You may recall the Board of Education's expenses for healthcare were basically flat over 5 years. When you run into anomalies like this, I'm not suggesting this, I actually used this term myself. I said, is this a knee-jerk question this morning? That we should look at traditional healthcare plans? And I reminded myself and the rest of the board that we weren't asking that question when we were having basically flat increases or decreases in our healthcare costs, where most of our colleagues or other communities who are in traditional plans were experiencing increases. So, but we're going to take a look at it. We're going to invite some other folks in to give us some perspective. One of the things that we have to remember is the consultants we use today are consultants we use to manage a plan, very specific plan, which is the one we have today. Some of those folks might not necessarily be engaged by the town if we do something different. So we need to be pretty careful about who we have advising us on that kind of analysis.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add, we may not do an in-depth study, but the conversation comes up pretty much every year, whether or not we should do that. I kind of equate this issue to our pension. You know, over the last few months, as our pension dropped, or your own personal, 401ks dropped, your knee-jerk reaction is to sell, right? Get out. Oh my God, the sky is falling. Absolute worst time to do that, in my opinion. Same thing with this. It may not be the right time. However, we will speak to the consultants. We will, have a conversation with them and discuss, the potential of moving out of the self-insured plan. I'm not sure how easy it is to do that. There's a lot to go into that, I think, but we certainly ask the questions.
Yeah, you can use the money from stop loss to pay into a plan too.
Yeah, and I know we needed quite a bit of fund balance to change over, which we don't have, so, all of that plays into the question, but certainly, like I said, we do discuss it each year. We haven't felt the need to move in that direction, but
I also think it just makes good sense to do it. I mean, we go through the budget process in February and March, and the public asks, well, have you done this? Have you looked at that? I think at least it's important to do our due diligence so that we have appropriate answers at that time. And whether we move or we don't move, at least we can say we looked at it.
absolutely.
Linda?
So this does come up during a lot of our contract negotiations. So we do look at it, maybe not a real in-depth, but we do look at alternatives during some of the contract discussions, because changing a plan like this would have to be negotiated into all 6 of our contracts.
Right.
So it does come up, and we have talked about it. We've looked at the state plan. We've looked at going to a regular premium-based plan.
Yeah, the state plan comes up quite often in our contract negotiations as well. So, same thing.
I gotta reiterate Veronica's position. I think the information's powerful. Even if we don't have to act on it, we would know more. Know what options are out there.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. No
Can I ask
worries.
a follow-up on the bill that passed around CMERS too?
Go ahead.
Are you gonna look at that for any pension options?
Could you repeat the question, Meg?
So there was a bill that passed the legislature this session that reformed like the pension, the retirement pension plan that many towns use. And so I was just curious if we were gonna be looking at that as contract negotiations are coming up for different unions.
Not to give away our bargaining positions with each of those, but quite honestly, I think you know that I'm pretty familiar with the MERS thing. I sat on a panel, and unfortunately, some of the things that some of us from municipalities asked for, which was no inclusion of overtime, so there were some changes that were not made to MERS that several of us thought were basically deal stoppers, deal breakers. We'll look at it. We did an analysis on returning to our own plan with one of the unions, and the cost would have been about a $20 million increase over the next 10 years in terms of contributions over and above what we're paying today for the 401k. There are a variety of things that are on the table. There's no secret that we settled the contract with the dispatchers over a year ago, where we increased the match to up to 12%. These are all the kind of concepts we're talking about in our negotiations. So.
Yeah, I think the bill that passed it doesn't include overtime. You can't count overtime. The final bill that passed.
But it didn't have a provision for having to fund a 401k for the overtime. I believe it would.
I'm not sure, but I know that the overtime was stripped out. So you might look at it.
Yeah, we're looking at it. We're looking at a variety of things. Quite honestly, I've already said too much in terms of our bargaining strategies are. So.
Okay, I was just curious because.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Lynn. Okay. Anything else for any of the items? Any of the items under 5 for the town? Okay. Then, with nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to approve the report of expenditures for town government for May 2025 in the amount of $2,925,631.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions, recusals? Excellent.
I just want to note that next
Please.
month I'll be coming with preliminary numbers for June, and then returning in August for final numbers for June as we close out the year, so just as a reminder.
So it is next month that we have 2 sets, right?
Yes.
Right.
And August too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. The 2-month cycle of double review. Excellent. Thank you. Item number 6, committee reports. I don't believe we have any. Item 7, old business. Any old business? Item number 8, new business.
I have something to mention.
Please.
Just for anybody who has not been following the Tony Awards, a Guilford High School graduate, Will Aronson, was the composer for Maybe Happy Ending, which won Best New Musical and Best Original Score. And in his acceptance speech, he didn't name Guilford, but he said, I had the gift of incredible music education in my hometown school system, and even if this hadn't been a career, it enriched my life tremendously. I'm so grateful to those teachers, and he goes on. So I just wanted to point that out, that's our budget dollars.
Yes.
That's the importance of arts in the school system. So thank you all for funding Will Aronson, because it's an amazing musical. So.
It's a new line item in the budget.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that. in fact, kind of a good segue, because I think on behalf of the Board of Finance, would be remiss not to congratulate the class of the Guilford High School class of 2025. And as I alluded to Katie before, it was, you know, it's always a nice ceremony, but they got it in before the rain, and it was, I had not attended it in a while. For lots of different reasons, but I did this past Friday, and it was just, it just gives you goosebumps, you know, just to watch and, you know, all the kids go up there and the excitement. So I was really glad I got to go this year. So, so congrats. And happy 4th of July to everyone in a couple weeks. So that's my new business there. Figured almost ended on a good high note. Item number 9, public forum. Anybody wishing to address the board in public forum? Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in
Second.
favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.